Hello, Lemon Nation. Welcome to another edition of the Don Lemon Show. Unfortunately, Don is still dealing with a family matter. He'll be back soon, but we had to provide you with some content, and we really wanted to talk about the Met Gala. So joining me today is Sam Barry, the editor-in-chief of Glamour magazine. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, happy first Tuesday in May, which is what we celebrate first Monday in May a lot for the Met, but yeah, first Tuesday in May.
So let's take a step back because some in Don's audience are not going to be super familiar with the Met Gala. What is the Met Gala? How did it start? Just, yeah, rant at me.
I mean, at its core, it's a gala, it's a charity night, right? And the whole concept of the Met Gala is to raise money for the Met, in particular around the Costume Institute, right? And so it has always been, for many a decade, a night of fashion, but really philanthropy, right? The whole concept is it's this one night in May, the first Monday of May, with few exceptions over COVID when it got changed around. But and it is to bring together people to not only celebrate fashion, but to raise money for the Met. And you know what I think you've seen, in particular in recent years, when it wasn't just people that were in New York that could see what was happening on the steps of the Met, that it had become this big broadcast moment, this big live stream moment. It has become a even a bigger night in fashion for everybody. People are waiting to see what people are wearing. Have they gone along with the theme? For some reason, the last couple of Mets, we've had very rainy Mondays in New York City. So there's been a lot of that. But yeah, it's become, I think we did a piece on Glamour recently where we looked back at some of the early 2000s Met, and it looks like maybe a more simple time, right? There was a lot of slip dresses, and maybe that was the fashion and the theme as well. But there's definitely an extravagance that comes along with going to a Met Gala recently that I know our audience love, and they stop and they watch. And but yeah, the ultimate um, goal of it is to raise money for the Met.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not a fashionista per se, but it cuts through for me. It's
Yeah.
so odd because in this era of echo chambers and media splintering, monoculture has sort of disappeared. It's been
Mhm.
destroyed. But the Met cuts through. I don't know if it's the camp of it all. I don't know if it's all the celebrities that go. But every single year, it dominates my social media feeds um, relentlessly. Let's talk about this year's theme,
Mhm.
Black Dandyism. That sounds fascinating to me. Can you talk to me about Black Dandyism?
Yeah, it's amazing. I really loved the theme this year. It actually stems from a 2009 book that was written by Monica Miller, and it was Slaves to Fashion, Black Dandyism, and the Styling of the Black Diaspora and Identity. And that was Andrew Bolton, who's the main curator at the Costume Institute, read that book after um, a very famous black dandy editor at Vogue, Andre, died, and was like, this is the basis for what could be potentially a spectacular exhibition. And so he reached out to the author of the book, and she came on as a co-curator, which they haven't really done a lot at the Met. So Andrew and Monica, who wrote this book on Black Dandyism, were the people that curated this exhibition. And really, what it is it is this it's at its core brilliant black men's styling.
Hmm.
And you can see it, and you can chart it back to the 1800s, but I think in particular modern era, it's like the Harlem Renaissance was where you saw a lot of like black dandies. And that was, I think there's a little bit of real pride in having an outfit that feels maybe over the top or is very put together, has a lot of color, has a lot of style. Um, and I think you see these great, amazing figures of Black dandyism and Black style in the exhibition. For example, one of my favorite things, I went to see the preview yesterday morning, was they have the frilly white shirt from Prince
Oh,
for
wow.
Purple Rain, which is spectacular, right? They have imagery and outfits that talk to Frederick Douglass. There's a lot of Virgil Abloh in the exhibition, who was the creative director of Off White, sadly passed away. There's a lot of nods to Louis Vuitton, and you have Pharrell Williams, who's the creative director there. So you have this beautiful charting of Black men's style in particular. And that's what Black Dandyism is. And I saw that a lot on the red carpet last night. And you saw that a lot because you saw a lot of women in suits, right? You saw a lot of
Mm-hmm.
interpretations in the beauty and the hair, and the deconstructed suit. And you saw a lot of dandyism on the red carpet last night.
So on the topic of suits, let's talk about the Zoot Suit.
Yes.
Because my understanding is the Zoot Suit is one of the cornerstones of Black Dandyism. I think we have a Wikipedia definition if we can pull it up. So the
Yes.
Zoot Suit is a men's suit with high-waisted, wide-legged, tight-cuffed peg trousers and a long coat with wide lapels and wide padded shoulders. It is most notable for its use as a cultural symbol in different subcultures originating among African Americans. So, Sam, talk to me more about the Zoot Suit and how it manifested last night at the Met Gala.
Well, even before you get to the gala, when you go into the exhibition, they have two of the original like zoot suits from Harlem Renaissance there, and the way that they have put them together, the hat is on top, right? It's just beautiful and brilliant. You saw it a lot. You saw it a lot on women last night, right?
Yeah.
My spectacular example of it was on Zendaya, who was wearing Louis Vuitton, as we said. Pharrell is creative director there, right? And if you look at the photos, what you can see is this beautiful, it's almost like a nod to not only the Zoot Suit, but Bianca Jagger's wedding, right? Where it was like this beautiful, gorgeously tailored suit with a tie and a shirt, and everything seems so put together, right? But
Hmm.
you also saw different, colorful zoot suits across the red carpet last night. You did see a lot of that white suit, right? That Zendaya had, but you saw lots of pops of color. I think one of my favorite was from Andrew Scott, Irish actor. So I'm
Yeah.
a bit biased, right? Like that pop of color. And then you had like the almost exaggerated version of the zoot suits, or the deconstructed ones, right? So some of the if you see in some of the photos, some of the women on the red carpet were doing almost deconstructed suits that weren't on their body, that were coming off their body. And yeah, it was a night for suits, which was amazing. People that you'd never seen walk a red carpet in a suit were suited up, so I like that. And then a person that you would usually see in a suit, Kamala Harris, turned up in a gown. So it was kind of like there's the flipping. There was like the ultimate female dandies, I would say, on the red carpet. Some that stand out for me were Janelle Monáe, who
Oh, it was
always,
beautiful.
always brings it at the Met, and is just again that beautiful, brilliant style of hers. That it was a night for the men though as well, right? Like if you look at what Lewis Hamilton was wearing, he was wearing Grace Wells Boner, who's a British designer, and he just looked, again, he was one of the co-hosts. Coleman Domingo was in
Oh,
Valentino, like
beautiful.
just divine. Also, Coleman opened the preview yesterday morning, and at the Met talked about the three men in his life that influenced his style: his stepfather, his father, and his brother, all of people he described as black dandies. And
Hmm.
how after a Friday, he talked about his, after a Friday, after his father had been paid, he'd come and he'd be wearing a very different outfit on a Friday evening into a weekend than he would on in his job during the week. And I think he was like, this is where I learned how to dress, and the kind of joy that comes with style. And I think you saw a
Yeah.
lot of joy last night, in how people interpreted the theme and what they were looking to do.
It was a night for the suit. It was a night for men. It was a night for joy. It was also a night for family. Can you talk about how family was sort of everywhere
Oh my
on
God,
the
it was
carpet last
such
night?
a family night. We were talking about this on at Glamour last night and this morning. It was a family affair, and in so many different ways. First of all, in pure Rihanna style, it wasn't good enough to announce a baby at the Super Bowl. baby number two at the Super Bowl, baby number three on Met Day. So like everybody, as the Met red carpet was opening, was hearing the news that the bump had been spotted in New York City. So waiting for Rihanna to rock up towards the end of the carpet, pregnant with baby number three, and her husband is obviously one of the co-hosts as well, ASAP Rocky. But it wasn't just the family affair; didn't end just with Rihanna. One of my favorite moments of the night is when Diana Ross rocked up to that red carpet, full white outfit. It took across all the stairs. If you could see in the photos, she literally took up half of the Met red carpet. That is a hard thing to do. But she also had all of her children's names embroidered in her outfit. All
Oh,
of her
wow.
children were at the Met too with her. And so that was an amazing family affair. Pamela Anderson, who was wearing Tory Burch and a new beauty look with micro bangs, turned up with her son. You had while Kim Kardashian didn't arrive with North, she was taking a lot of photos with her before the red carpet. And if you've ever watched their show, you can tell that North has got a lot of fashion takes and
Hmm.
is a big fashion critic, I would say. So I can't wait to see what she thought of people. But yeah, it did feel like a lot of family affair. There was a lot of couples on the red carpet. Our audience loved to see that as well. You had the Dua Lipa and Callum, her fiance. You had Gabrielle Union and her husband. You Simone Biles and her husband. So there was, yeah, I think it did feel like a family affair.
There were so many beautiful looks, so many serves, as the kids say. Everybody
Yes.
was eating, as the kids say. But who, in your mind, truly killed it? Who took up space? Who captured the camera attention? Who is everyone going to be talking about? Not just today, not just tomorrow, but weeks from now, months from now. Who will be remembered as having, just dominated this Met Gala?
I loved Lauren Hill. I
Mm.
thought she was spectacular. I loved her umbrella, her gold fan. I loved the space that she took up. I think again, it's such a expansive carpet. I've done it 4 times. It is the one of the most terrifying walks anyone will ever take, even if they're used to a red carpet, even if they're used to press, even if they're used to being photographed. There is nothing as daunting as the steps of the Met on a Monday and that sea of photographers shouting your name. Um, and I love when whoever it is gets on the carpet knows that they have a look and is owning it. And Lauren Hill was definitely one of those ones for me last night. And she was in that beautiful yellow, as you can see from the photos. And she took up space. Somebody asked her, I think Vanity Fair asked her on the red carpet, what does black style mean to you? And she just said everything. And the reporter said, that's good enough for me. And yeah, I really liked her. Who else do I think? Again, I do feel like when it comes to something like this theme tailored for you and superfine black tailoring, I think the ones that do a lot of personal interpretation of that and back to the family theme, like Ava DuVernay, she took a photo of her grandmother, and grandmother or great grandmother, I'm not sure, and it might need to be fact checked on that, but the photo, and that's what she used as inspiration for her outfit. And I think you saw that a lot of like nods to the past as well. And so for me, it's the people that really truly get it right. Lauren Hill is up there. Zendaya suit. I mean, I just think if you're a bride, if you're a bride in the summer of 2026 and you were thinking about um, going for a suit rather than a gown, you have 10 versions of inspiration for your mood board from last night.
Yeah.
Um, who else did I really love? Who did you love?
Oh gosh, there were so many. I really liked Coleman Domingo, because he
Loved.
also he opened the night with that cape, this
Yes.
giant cape, and he unfurls it and has his sort of interpretation of a zoot suit, and it was just both looks were so beautiful. I also love, I think it was Janelle Monáe who had a similar dynamic where she had this very large, I guess you could call it a cape,
Yeah.
and then she opened up to a second gown that I thought
And if
was
you
just so
see
breathtaking
her
beautiful.
after party look, it was a even more stripped down version of that suit. So go search out the after party because there's a lot. She unpeeled a layer of an
Mm,
onion all night, and it was spectacular and performative. There's a theater to this, right? Like I watched the Met Gala, and I want the drama. I want it to
mm,
be. I don't want the most I get disappointed is when somebody doesn't take a risk. When it's like, "Hmm, okay." Um, that's because nobody is tuning into the Met Gala for okay, right? Even if it's a little risky, take risks, right? Do something different. You saw a lot of hats last night, and I don't think a lot of those people wore hats a lot of the time. So I think there's a lot of hat inspo as well. Again, there was a lot of hat and hair inspo in this. A lot of baby hair. There was a lot of like structural hair. It was great.
mm. And then talk to me about the co-hosts. Patrick Schwarzenegger, Andrew Scott, Walter Goggins. A couple of them, I think, were on the White Lotus this past
So those
season.
weren't the co-hosts, but they were some of the best men for me. So
I
the
see.
co-hosts were all men. So you had ASAP Rocky, you had Lewis Hamilton, you had LeBron James, who couldn't make it because of an injury and was very sad about it. But I do think it was a night for the men, and I was
Mm,
watching the men in particular, and Walter Goggins is White Lotus. Everybody's loving him at the moment. He turned up in a Tom Brown skirt. And again, there was something about like the fluidity of like the switches between genders last night
yeah.
and who wore skirts and who wore suits and all that, which I quite enjoyed watching actually. Um, I thought Patrick Schwarzenegger, who again, yeah, is in White Lotus, he took a risk, right? Like I wouldn't have like he was in a beautiful pinstripe is the hallmark of a lot of like dandyism, and I loved when people had a play on pinstripe, and I thought Patrick's look was very, very sharp, took a risk without being too over the top, and I thought that was great. Again, I loved Andrew Scott. It, again, in previous Met Galas, one could say that it was always the women that always shined and like the men were there in tuxes. What I think you've seen in not only this theme but also the evolution of how men dress recently or
Hmm.
take risks is that you're seeing more than like the black suits, right? You're seeing people taking
Yeah.
a chance, and you're like, and you saw that a lot with the male styling last night, and I loved it. Oh,
Two
Law Roach, who's one of the biggest stylists, who styles
for
Zendaya.
Zendaya, correct? Yes.
Yeah, and he had a whole hair transformation to blonde, which we all gasped at, which was lovely. Again, usually something that's often reserved for the women, but like here we go. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I love the transgression. I don't even know if you can call it transgression anymore. It's
Yeah,
just it's people being bold, people embracing the camp. It's such a wonderful night. What do you think? Like, I guess to your point about folks just wanting to see the Met Gala goers take risks. I
yeah,
saw that sentiment a lot on social media last night because if you think about a theme like Black Dandyism, there are a lot of folks who went to the Met Gala who are not black.
yeah,
And I think there's maybe some trepidation in participating in a theme like Black Dandyism if you are
mm,
not
yeah,
black. And again, to your point, you had some folks who, you know, didn't necessarily want to engage, and so they just threw on a tux and walked the
yeah.
red carpet. But I think that some folks who did take risks, um, it paid off. No?
Yeah. And I think you can have an appreciation. So like the exhibition was Black Dandyism and the dress code was tailored for you. But I think some of my favorite uh looks were people that like were really respectful and thought about the theme, thought about how am I going to interpret it? How am I going to do it that feels right for me? And I think you saw a lot of that. And yet like nobody you're not watching the Met Gala because you're like, I want to buy. I know I made that comment about like white suits for brides, but because that is something that you would be able to do after last night's gala. But like, I'm not watching the Met Gala to be like, oh, I wonder what I can shop afterwards. I'm watching the Met Gala because I want the drama and I
Yeah.
want to see the most magical, creative people when they get together. How they can think about that, whether that's the stylists or the designers and the talent themselves and what they can come up with, what's their brainchild. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But you know what? I'm on board for people taking a chance.
How does the Met Gala, how does Anna Wintour, how do they outdo this? What are they going to go for next year? What do you predict? What do you want?
Oh, it's a great question. It's a great question. Look, I think, well, first of all, even if you weren't watching the Met Gala last night, like go, and you're in New York, go to see the exhibition. Like it blew
Mm.
me away. It was one of my favorite, and I've been to everyone in the last 11 years. I think it's pretty high up there in standing out for me in something that I felt really moved by. So go visit it and see it for yourself. Um, I don't know. It's an interesting question. I think that they're very creative in how they think. Again, Andrew Bolton taking this book from 2009 that he was reading about a Vogue editor and being like, this is the basis of something, and
Hmm.
this is the basis of something that we can really lean into. I don't know. I wouldn't beg to predict what the next would be. Next one could or should be, but I think an exhibition and a theme that lends itself to risk and being elaborate is where I would continue to go with it.
Mm. So we looked forward, now let's look back. For anyone watching who loved the looks from last night and want more, what
Yes.
years, what past themes would you particularly recommend if someone's going
I
through the digital
loved
archives?
You know what? If you want to go and figure out, I think for me, a turning point for the Met, and you can actually watch you can actually watch this. There's a documentary called The First Monday in May,
Mm.
and it is based off um, what actually happened. So it's a great doc, so you can watch that. I think the Met Gala post Alexander McQueen's death was one of the most impactful and I think most popular. And it really showcased a person and a legacy of this designer who kind of changed how fashion was consumed. So Alexander McQueen, I loved China Through the Looking Glass. I thought that was amazing, and it was great. If you want to see a Met Gala where people did take a lot of risks, some paid off, some didn't, was Heavenly Bodies.
Oh, I remember
Um,
that one.
uh, and then I think they would be, and I love vintage Met Gala stuff as well. Like I love like Cher in that Bob Mackie sheer number, which I think is probably one of the more famous earlier Met Gala looks of all
Mm.
time. I also like going back and looking at like couples at the Met Gala. Like we did a piece on Glamour on like, can you believe these people went to the Met Gala together? Like these older couples or these couples of time, even recent years gone by, you were like, oh, they were at the Met Gala together. For example, last year you had Sabrina Carpenter and Barry Keoghan arrive at the Met Gala together. This year they arrive separately. So there's and they're all in that room, right? Like there's the fun. We were talking this morning, like phones are banned. You got a
Mm.
sticker on your phone. Megan Thee Stallion has some great content on her TikTok this morning. If you want a secret behind the scenes look
Ooh.
at the food, and she took off her sticker and was like trying all the appetizers. Broke a little bit of the rules, but quite enjoyable to watch. But yeah, I would say if you're going back, the McQueen one and China Through the Looking Glass is very good.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. This has been such a cool, interesting, fun conversation. The news is pretty dark right now, so I
Yeah, we
think
need
that,
joy, man. We need joy when we can, and that's what we do at Glamour. And that's I would always say, like, we're ready to fight, but we're powered by joy. And let's let's enjoy looking at some fabulous fashion when it can be fun and doesn't have to be too hard.
yeah, not everything has to be so serious and dour.
No.
We can still fight for democracy, but also enjoy a little frivolity, enjoy a little camp now and then.
Yeah, exactly.
Sam, editor in chief of Glamour magazine, thank you so
Thank you
much for
so
doing this.
much.
Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.